All right, Uncle Walt, we're gonna do a little Q&A around the flower power. Now that everybody's seen how to do the facilitation tool, first thing that comes to mind is we put Skippy in the middle here, Skippy being an individual. What about when we have teams, maybe 4, 5, 10 people in the same type seat or job? Is the flower power something that can work to try to dissect all the positions for those teams?
Yeah, and that's kind of the example. A lot of times you might have, uh, five people that are all part of one team, and they all have maybe the same job description. But it's pretty important to still keep a view on the individual contributor. And in this case, we might want to do a two or three flower power exercises based on the different people around that table. Uh, does that make any sense? If you don't, then it kind of becomes too generic. And when you can really do it on the individual, it makes it all come to life.
Yeah, yeah, and that probably gets into another question, which is when you were to compare some of those, if we're looking back at the diagram on the board where there's six different petals,
Yeah.
what happens if there's things that need to come off of, say, in this case, Skippy's plate? We've got the six positions, we've got the purpose statements around them. Does that, a lot of times the end result is not a perfect scenario for the person that's in that job.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of important is that the longer somebody's been with an organization and the more they've grown with the organization, a lot of times there's really more than six petals. Sometimes we'll see as many as 11 or 12 petals, and sometimes the petals that show up are petals that I refer to as barnacles. And so, like, it might have been a seventh petal here that Skippy's been volunteering for a bunch of years, and it really doesn't have anything to do with what she currently does or what her true job is or the teams or meetings she's part of. She had just volunteered years ago to take care of something, and it kind of got attached to her job like a barnacle, like on a post at the ocean. And these have a tendency to accrete, and they kind of accrete to your high performers and the people who are really given to the organization. It's really not fair for them to have all these barnacles attached to them. It slows them down, and that kind of takes you sometimes to the next question would be, what out of these six are his or her highest and best use? And you'll kind of come back and go, wow, number five, why are you doing that, Skippy? That's really doesn't seem like your highest and best use. Or do you get a lot of energy out of that, or does it drag you down? You have good conversations around it. Then I'm kind of riffing a little bit here. And the cool thing about it is when you do this, like with a couple of individuals in the room at different pieces, sometimes you'll see that really this position right here can be done by one person, but it's being sort of shared by four people. And that's super inefficient. And kind of when you get everybody around the room doing this, it'll be like, hey, man, actually, Bobby, you're really, really great at that. You love that, right? Well, why don't you take that position? Instead of you four, and you're able to divvy up the work that's going on a little bit.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the key points that we've talked through with accountable is that having a full inventory of your jobs and your positions is how, both in times of growth and uncertainty, it's going to be a tool that you leverage. This is one of the facilitations to try to get towards that full audit and inventory. And sometimes the people like Skippy that are sitting in the middle are going to come out, and actually that's going to be a very rewarding exercise, because we're going to see that whether it's the barnacle you refer to or other things that might need to get off their plate. So win-win all around.
Oh, it's one of the things that the temptation is for management to do this without including the individuals. And when you think about this whole thing we're doing with the 7 questions, and we're trying to flip the script, and we're doing this for our people and not to them. So having them in the room is really important, and you'll just see them light up when they participate here and see themselves on the board. You'll get all of the buy-in. So it's really important to do it with the individuals doing the work. And end of the day, they know a hell of a lot more than we know about what they're doing on a daily basis.
Very fair. We've all learned that lesson the hard way. How long should this take?
I could take as little as 10 to 15 minutes to maybe as many as 30 minutes if you end up with like a really big, long list, and the team stands up and they're looking at the list of what Skippy's doing and really challenging whether that's something that, like an EOS language, does Skippy really get it and want it and have the capacity to do it for, highest and best use type stuff. So 15 minutes to 30. Once you've gone around a couple, it goes super quick. But you got to give it some time. Got to give enough time to be involved.
And what's the balance and the give and take for if we're talking about a full position of jobs and position inventory of jobs and positions? Do we have to do this with everybody? 15 minutes per person? How do we understand what good looks like there?
I think we need to be in groups. You're trying to get the buy-in, so you want to include. Everyone is a big word, right? And you definitely need to include your people who are engaged and really interested in growing the company. You don't want to leave them out for sure. Perfect world, everybody's involved. But of course, that might be impossible to do.
Very cool.
Cool.
Flower power is how we get towards that full inventory of doing thinking positions, and feel free to start using this immediately.
All right, let's get cognizant.